Tonight, the controversy pitching 400,000 Seventh-day Adventist church members against the Electoral Commission over the 7th of December general elections. The church is demanding a change in the date, and they cannot separate their civic responsibility to vote from their religious commitments.
Is the Sabbath of thy Lord. If it were mine, I would decide on what to do with it. But it's God's, and he says on this day, don't do this or do this. So that's where the conflict comes up. And that's why we think that if there's anything that can be done to change the date, it will help our members.
We tell you about the petitions they filed with the Electoral Commission, the Attorney General, and with Parliament. But we also tell you why the proposal is also pitching the Seventh-day Adventists against the Catholic Bishops' Conference, as they say the demand is not only unnecessary, but the Adventists should find a compromise.
That's what I'm saying, that they have no case. Why should they argue that because Saturday is their day, so it should be brought to Tuesday?
I think we just have to tolerance about some of this and make provision, because we are not going to spend the whole day voting, and we don't also spend the whole day in church or in the mosque.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. There is religious controversy tonight that is pitching 400,000 Seventh-day Adventist church members against the Electoral Commission for the 7th of December general elections. And there is a lot to explain here. The controversy is brewing on this issue. And the Seventh-day Adventist Church say they cannot separate their civic responsibility to vote from their religious commitments. Now, the church, in separate petitions, first to the Electoral Commission, and we've confirmed that they have indeed sent this petition to the EC. The EC has confirmed receipt, and another one to the Attorney General. The Attorney General says they're yet to receive that petition, demanding also the Parliament steps in with a constitutional amendment. The Electoral Commission is also telling us they are yet now to consider the details of this petition. But the Seventh-day Adventists say that this year's election should be moved from the conventional December 7th because the date falls on Saturday, which will conflict with the Sabbath, a holiday dedicated to the worship of God. Now, the church says the first or second Tuesday of December will be more convenient to promote inclusive democracy. Well, we've been speaking to the church in an exclusive interview with Joy News' Blessed Soga, the Women's Ministry Director at the Seventh-day Adventist Church Southern Ghana Union Conference, Solace Asafo, explained that it is the hope of the church that elections will not be held on any religious day in Ghana.
Absolutely, and that's a problem. That's a problem for us. In 1996, Ghana, 7 December fell on a Saturday, and Adventists were torn between going to church and voting. Admittedly, religion and politics are two very passionate items. So when you ask somebody to choose either or, you create a problem if they want both. And that's why it's a problem for Seventh-day Adventists who vote. We are not a people who don't vote. We vote. And so we want to vote. So to have December 7, 2024 being a Saturday poses a big challenge to us, especially for those who do not want to go against their religious convictions and yet also want to vote for their candidates. Voting is a civic responsibility. Honoring the Sabbath is a godly responsibility. That's how we see it. As enshrined in the 10 Commandments, he says you have 6 days to do all your work, but you have to rest on the Sabbath day. And you know, sometimes people don't understand, but in that commandment, it says that the Sabbath day is the Sabbath of thy Lord. If it were mine, I would decide on what to do with it. But it's God's, and he says on this day, don't do this or do this. So that's where the conflict comes up. And that's why we think that if there's anything that can be done to change the date, it will help our members.
And now we know that you've sent your petition to the Electoral Commission detailing your concerns and what it is, the challenges you have about December 7th and the need to either move the date to November or try and get a date that will not be a Saturday. Have you taken any other step to raise your concerns to the state and to put across your demands?
I think we've started this about advocacy since 2021. In December, in 1996, the initiative to have a change or have some special dispensation started rather late. So we left it to members to decide whether to vote or not. So with that as a background, we thought that let's start it early. So in June 2021, we actually had an appearance with the President of the Republic and placed before him our concerns. So he also raised the constitutional issues that may come up and the steps, but obviously gave his support because his government or no government will want to deny its citizens the right to vote. Then in December 2021, there was opportunity for us to present a memo to Parliament, which we did, also reiterating the same points, asking for a date change. We followed that up subsequently by writing to the Electoral Commission in February last year, indicating or making a proposal for a change. What we were proposing was not for a date change, but we were proposing a day. So we proposed in our submission to the EC the first Tuesday or a Tuesday in November or December of 2024. Now we did this against the background that in our recent past, 2011, there were attempts, there were recommendations that there needed to be some election day changes. In 2015, the commission, the late Atamils put together, also made recommendations. Our Transition Act also advocates for an election day change. And then in 2016, there was actually a bill in Parliament, which unfortunately did not garner the majority vote, also asking for a change from December to November. But most parliamentarians thought that EC could not organize an election a month earlier. So we are riding on the backs of these earlier attempts. But in our case, the difference is that, or our addition to this call is that we're asking for a Tuesday in either December or November.
And you had that interview with the Director for Public Affairs and Religious Liberty at the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Ghana, Dr. Solis Asafo. In the studio with me right now is my colleagues, Blazer Soga, who did that interview. He's been following up with the church on this particular matter, but also with me is my colleague Kofi J, who has been looking at their numbers and the potential impact of what may happen on the 7th of December if their demands are not heeded too. But Blazer, what specifically do they have grounds that they've laid in this petition before the Electoral Commission?
Well, we've also intercepted, Evans, a document purported to be that letter or petition reaching to the Electoral Commission signed by Dr. T.T. Okran, who happens to be president of the church. Now, I must state that the church has two leadership or administrative unions, the Southern Ghana Union Conference, which is based in Accra, and the others manning the church up north. And their concern basically is that they point to, first of all, the Constitutional Review Commission report of 2011, which they say makes a recommendation for a possible change of the December 7 date to November 7 as proposed in pages 8, 10, and 11 of the Constitutional Review Commission. They, however, lay their foundation on biblical principles detailing that Saturday is Sabbath, and of course prescribes any member of this SDA church from doing anything apart from worship on the said date. Now, they also point to the need for the Attorney General in this very petition to possibly initiate the process of looking at a review of Article 112, Clause 4 of the 1992 Constitution, because it would then bring up issues of possibly changing the day stipulation and the requirements within the 1992 Constitution on the timelines for the organization of parliamentary and presidential elections. Now, the church says in this petition, just summarizing the claims, that they recognize the fact that there are other religious groupings in the country, a reason for which they are opting for the first Tuesday or second Tuesday in November.
Religiously neutral days.
Precisely.
So to speak.
And speaking about that, Islam requires that Friday will be the worship day. We know that for Sunday it will be for Christians who are not Adventist, and for the Adventist church itself will be a Saturday. So they believe that Tuesday is religiously neutral, because even within Accra and other parts of the country, Tuesdays have a significance for local, traditional rulers, where an order is made for fisher folk not to go fishing, and for those who farm as well, they are required not to go farming on Tuesday. So it forms part of the reasons for which the SDA Church
including
believes
also
that these concerns must be taken.
The practical concern they've raised about some of their churches are used as polling centers, and some of their members actually work for the Electoral Commission on the day.
Now, they talk about the number, and they have done some tabulation. It comes to 2,090 buildings. And they say that these assets or buildings belong to the SDA Church. They might either be a school building belonging to the SDA Church, or they are church premises, which are usually used for electoral purposes, a reason for which they would want, a holistic approach, a review of the election date come December 7th.
And I'm also interested in they mentioned actually that the Electoral Commission itself has a reform committee report, which, if you pull up, they reference that in making the argument to the Electoral Commission to change the date. It had been proposed in that particular report by the Electoral Commission that the elections are held for presidential and parliamentary on the 7th of November. The Electoral Commission has not come round to actually implement that proposal just yet, but the Seventh-day Adventist petition mentions and cites that particular report and says, in essence, the Electoral Commission itself has been thinking about changing the date for the election.
And in fact,
that's something that
that's contained in the Electoral Commission Reform Commission report, if that's the document you're referring to. Document. And they conclude this petition by pointing out also that you have this same situation happening in 1996. It did happen. The church had to, be lax about it and not giving a strict directive. However, they believe that this will recur, because after 2024, there will come a time again when December 7 will fall on another Sabbath day, which will be a challenge for the church. And they believe that it's time to take a second look at this.
And Kofi, you've been looking at the numbers for us in terms of the congregation, in terms of the how many people worship. As far as the Seventh-day Adventist Church is concerned, 400,000 we counted, but also some of the specifics that they've mentioned, the buildings that may be used for the elections, the number of Seventh-day Adventist people who may be working for the Electoral Commission who may be affected.
So, Evans, we've been finding out from the church's archives and statistics and research department, and the specific number of the Seventh-day Adventist Church population in Ghana is 395,374. This is as of June 2022. And just as Blessed mentioned, they have two divisions, the Southern Ghana Conference and the Northern Ghana sector of the church. If you go to the Southern Ghana Conference, there are 7 regions here, and they have about 1,055 churches. Now, if you look at the population of the 7 regions, we are talking about 188,650 Seventh-day Adventist churches. Now, let's go to the Northern Ghana Union Conference, where we have the Ashanti region and other northern parts of the country. There are 9 regions in here and 1,068 churches or institutions. And if you look at the population of the Northern Ghana, conference, this is the biggest portion of the division, 206,724. So together, we are looking at close to 400,000 Seventh-day Adventists who are currently in Ghana. You know, the church does not baptize juveniles. So for you to be a member, you should be about age 15 and some, significance years.
What about this number they mentioned about, the church buildings possibly being used for?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at
activities?
the country, they sum both the churches and educational, facilities. So you look at, secondary schools and primary schools or basic schools, totaling about over 2,000 institutions scattered across the country that usually are used as polling stations during elections.
I mean, as you may have noticed in the petition to Parliament, and also now one to the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission has indeed confirmed to us that they have received this petition. The Electoral Commission, though, says they are yet to take any decision on this particular matter. The Attorney General's Department, though, tell us that they have not received this yet and they don't know about this petition. But there's one to Parliament also. I want to bring in the President of the Parliamentary Christian Fellowship, an MP for Whole West, Emmanuel Bedra, who joins us on the telephone line right now. Mr. Bedra, thanks for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you very much, Evans, and good evening to your cherished listeners.
Also joining me right now is the Director for Public Affairs and Religious Liberty at the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Ghana, Dr. Solis Asafo. Doc, thanks for your time here on Top Story.
Hello, I'm here. Good evening.
Great to have you on. And let me quickly clarify, have you sent this petition to the Attorney General's Department just yet?
Yes. If you look on the date, it was submitted on the 9th of January.
And your sole purpose is to get the Attorney General to start a process in Parliament to amend the Constitution?
Yes, that's the proposal we are making. Because it's two ways. It can be, the amendment can be put forth by the Attorney General or through a private member's bill. But we think that going through the Attorney General is the best way.
9th of January, have you received a response yet?
No, not yet.
What about the petition you sent to the Electoral Commission?
In fact, we met with the Electoral Commission in June 2023 on this same issue. We wrote to them in February. In June, they gave us an audience, and they indicated to us they would consider the proposal we put before them. So we still think it's under consideration.
Emmanuel Bedra, you are a member of Parliament. You also represent a caucus in Parliament that advances the interest of the Christian community, the Parliamentary Christian Fellowship. Has this formally come to your attention?
No, it hasn't come to our attention. Until this evening, I've not even heard of any group of Christian community asking for the change in date for our election. And so this is news to me anyway. Maybe they've addressed it to the Speaker. Speaker has not brought it to my attention yet.
But now you know about it. Is that a legitimate demand?
Well, Evans, my brothers from the Seventh-day Adventists, the whole country needs to listen to them, and then the whole country will have to take decision. If you look at the numbers that you just called, the 395,000 membership, it clearly shows that they have at least or close to about 1% of Ghana's population. And so it's worth listening to them and also look at the merit in what they've said. Having said that, Evans, the date has been set as per our constitution and as per the instrument brought by Electoral Commission. Our laws or the constitution in Article 63 says that the election should be held if there's a president and the person is rerunning. It should be held a month before the handing over, or it should be held, it should not be held after 4 months. That means that between October to December, you can hold election so that handing over can be done in January 7th. And so the date for 7th January has been cast in stone, is set in our constitution. Now, it is the date that we can vary. That's why during the Constitutional Review Committee, they came up with a date that we should have enough time for people for when we are going through our transition. There should be enough time for transition period. That's why the Constitutional Review Committee came out with the 7th November. Now, the issue is not about the date of election, but the day. If I get you right, it's a date, Saturday of election. Now, if 7th November is also as my brothers from the Seventh Adventists are saying, if the 7th November is also a Saturday, does that mean that we have to shift it to another day? We should look at all these things carefully before we decide. So it has both religious undertone and also we must also respect the Constitution of Ghana. The Constitution has not yet been reviewed. They said they are bringing an amendment, or they propose an amendment to the Attorney General's department. We are waiting for if the Attorney General will listen to them and bring it to us, then we'll look at it whether there's a merit in taking the amendment at all.
I mean, Dr. Safo, you make the point in your petition that we are in a secular state. The Constitution actually upholds that particular point also. And yet, one religious body says, well, let's change the date because it doesn't agree with our own religious beliefs. That sounds to me like a contradiction.
But then you said it sounds to you like
a contradiction. It's a secular state. The date has been set. Just comply.
No, I don't see a contradiction. Change can always take place. And, when you spoke about the numbers, it's not necessary. Change must not necessarily come from the majority. In Ghana's election, 50 plus 1, so even a single vote counts. Our position is that in as much as we are entitled to our religious liberty, anything that goes contrary to our religious liberty, we must speak up about it and make proposals for a change. Truth be told, the Seventh-day Adventist Church does not legislate to its members whether to vote or not to vote.
In other words, they can go to church in the morning and turn up later and cast your ballots.
What you would find is that it's left to the individual to decide. But in most cases, and as you pointed out, if our churches and our schools are used as polling stations, some of our members are polling agents. You are in church, you have to go out, line up for hours.
But there's provision. There's
raises
provision.
A lot of issues and conflicts for people.
But that's it though, because there's a provision for you to vote early. If indeed you are going to be an electoral commission officer on the day, you can do the special voting and vote early.
Yes, but there's no provision for if they would use your facility as a polling station and whether another place will be found for you. It raises a lot of conflict. And truth be told, politics and religion are very sensitive things to people. And so we think that in as much as we may be in the minority, we believe that this elections and going to church should not be an either-or situation. If there's opportunity and if we can be heard, let's go through the processes and let's see what Ghana thinks.
I mean, direct question. So if this doesn't change and it stays on Saturday, you won't vote?
That choice will be for the individual member to either vote or not to vote. But if you look at what happened in 1996, majority of Seventh-day Adventists did not vote when the election day was on Saturday.
But that's a choice.
That's what we want to avoid.
That's a choice that you've made to forgo that civic responsibility.
Yes.
Okay, stay with me. Stay with me.
And that's why the institutional body is pushing. If we can have a change, why not?
Let me bring in Martin Kpebu right now. He is a paralegal practitioner. He's also a human rights activist. Martin, there's a constitutional question here. This is not entrenched. How easy it is to change this?
Evans, if you look at if we're given a straight answer, yes, it can be changed. It can be amended before elections because the main period, the longest period that requires some work to be done, about at least 4 months, which is that, I'm just talking about the big ones. Article 2991, when it's, so 112 that I want to amend, 112, 113, they are non-entrenched. So being non-entrenched, the procedure for amending them is that when the bill is published in the Gazette, so first publication, the second publication should be made at least 3 months after the first. So if you publish It's the first time. When we say Gazette publication, it's at Assembly Press next to Accra Poly. So that's where the government Gazette is. So the publication is done there, right? Well, they may change the location physically, but I'm just showing where it is. You can find it in Accra. So if you publish today, make sure that the next time you are publishing is at least 3 months. That bill that you're going to use to amend Article 112, all right, 113. Make sure that the next one is 3 months. And then after, when it's taken to there's procedure for it to be taken to the Council of State. And Council of State also has 30 days. Well, they say within. So, but right now we are looking at the big tickets. I think Council of State doesn't finish, but within this doesn't finish within 1 day. The law gives them up to 30 days. So, publication between the first and second one requires 3 months. Council of State requires 30 days. So that's 4 months. So the rest of the things that's between now and December 7th. So we have about 10.5 months. The rest of the other constitutional steps can be taken within that 6 months. So, simple answer, theoretically, yes. But practically, maybe if you're going through, there could be some hiccups here and there.
I mean, the Constitution, I raised the point about this being a secular state. It's a secular constitution that we're around. The date is already fixed. One religious group says, well, because of my religious beliefs, it will affect my ability to marry both, to be religiously committed, but also exercise my civic responsibility. In demanding this change, if I don't believe in that, and the vast majority of Ghanaians don't have a problem with this, as we've seen 400,000 Adventists do, that appears to me, if anybody attempts to change this date, you're then going to have a situation where others will come and say, but why are you changing the rules for 400,000 people? It's a secular state.
Yeah. Evans, you have a point. So, since it came, well, we are also thinking about it. I've been wondering whether we can do early voting for them, like we do for the security agencies, except that the security agencies, police agencies, put their combined numbers. They are not up to 400,000. So let's look at it. Right now we are looking at the alternatives. It's one of the things we can do, early voting. In the US like this, they don't just have the elections on one day. You see, a week before, people are allowed to vote over a period. Since we've copied a lot from them, maybe we can look at that, early voting. Early voting is one of the options. Except that for each of the days those people are voting, what I can see is that it will bring a lot of strain on parties in opposition. The truth of the matter is that when a party is in opposition, generally its sources of funding are far more difficult. It's more financially constrained. The one in government is able to do corruption like we are currently facing. They steal here and there, like Kennedy Japan has said, and so they are able to afford it more. So practically, I can see that when we want to do that early voting, yes, then it means that we can say, okay, the state should bear that cost. Because you know what, Evans, this brings in the matter of party financing. The World Bank, the major institutions in the world across in the world have seen that party financing is one of the greatest causes of corruption. So if the state wants to absorb this cost, we can do early voting. If the state says no, we are a developing country, we are not interested, then okay, let's do the constitutional amendment and get one single day.
I mean, Inusa Fuseni used to be the ranking member of the Constitutional Legal Affairs Committee in Parliament. Mr. Fuseni, where do you stand on this question?
Well, thank you for having me on this matter. Indeed, this is a very interesting matter, a very interesting development. In 2012, we were on the brink of a constitutional crisis. We had conducted about 2008 actually, we had conducted 3 elections to determine our president, and we were left with a very limited time for the transition. So in 2014, His Excellency Dramani Mahama initiated proceedings to have the voting day moved to the first Friday of November. That was fiercely resisted in Parliament. So the amendment to the 7th December date to move same to the first Friday of November was defeated because we couldn't get 2/3 majority. That was clearly a constitutional we had thought that because of the way the Constitution prescribes the way the president is to be determined, we could run into a fourth round and all that. And so we needed more time for transition. Now, what the SDA, Seventh-day Adventist Church, is saying is that they believe that Saturday, which is their Sabbath, will not permit them to take part in the voting, and they are relying on the basis of inclusivity and participation in the elections to request dates be changed to the Tuesday or first Tuesday or second Tuesday of November. That will require a constitutional amendment, obviously. And whether we have time to do that, whether the government has appetite to do that, is another matter. They are right in demanding so because Article 21(1)(c) of the Constitution says that every person has the right to freedom to worship, to have freedom to practice his religion and to manifest same. And so, yes, the religion forbids them to participate or do anything other than worship their God on a Saturday. And so they might not be able to participate in the 7th December elections because it's going to fall on a Saturday. Now, if we are interested in including them, in making sure that they are included in determining the who becomes the president of the country, then we need to take their concern seriously. And I've heard Martin suggest that probably early voting. That might have constraints. The security services are a determined group, and because they have activities on the voting day, they are allowed to vote. Early voting, to vote before the date of the elections, to compile a register of all the members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and make the register available to political parties to allow them to vote prior to the day of elections might be quite onerous. But that is not to say that that can be ruled away. We can look at that possibility. But the most obvious way, if we are minded to think about or to consider their plea for inclusivity and participation, then the obvious route will be to amend the Constitution to bring the date backwards.
Yeah, I mean, and that obviously is one thing that it's going to be a subject for the Electoral Commission to consider. And Mr. Bedra is still on. Mr. Bedra, you are in Parliament. This can be one that a private member pursues. Is this something that you're interested in, considering that you represent a group in Parliament that advances the cause of the Christian community?
Well, Evans, I will not consider that private member's bill. Rather, I will rather appeal to my brothers and sisters from the SDA fraternity to reconsider, because, you see, as I mentioned, it's the day they are talking about, Saturday. It's not about the date per se, but the day. So even if you change, we have any constitutional amendment now, and then it falls on the same Saturday in the next 10 or 20 years, does that mean that we have to come up with another constitutional amendment to change it, or we have to come up with a private member's bill to change that amendment? And so I want to appeal to them. You know, there's give and take in politics, and as a Christian, and I believe they will understand me as a Christian, you must also believe that you have to sacrifice for the state, you have to sacrifice for the nation. Going to church on Saturday or not going to church on Saturday is an individual issue, just as Madam has mentioned, that they are not going to say push anybody not to come to church or go to church on that Saturday. I think the major one has to do with the infrastructure that we'll be using, their classrooms that they'll be using, because I don't know whether they'll open the classroom for us or they'll close down, those classrooms because they will not want their church premises or classes or their infrastructure should be used on Saturday. Maybe that's another thing altogether that the government or all of us need to meet with them and discuss with them. And so it's not something that I want to take, and I don't think any of my colleagues would like to come up with a private member's bill. on this matter.
Emmanuel Beja, thank you very much. A pretty complex matter indeed, as you can just guess from the contributors we've had on the show. But as you've heard from the Seventh-day Adventists themselves, they are not going to direct their members not to vote on the day. It is left to the individuals to decide on that subject. Well, other religious groups, other Christian bodies have a say in this matter. Also, the Catholics Bishops Conference, they've been speaking on this already. The Director of Communications, Reverend Father Diodone Kofi Davos, says this Adventists should simply strike a compromise, find a way to vote on the day.
First of all, I appreciate where our brethren, the Adventists, are coming from, because it has to do with faith. But this is a constitutional date also. And there have been occasions that we had to vote on other days, including Fridays and Sundays. So since this is something that takes place once in 4 years, we should make room. We should be ready to compromise where it matters most, and be tolerant about it. Yes, the process of making a date that doesn't fall on any day that religious people meet is something that people can consider. But as it stands now, I think we just have to be tolerant about some of this and make provision, because we are not going to spend the whole day voting, and we don't also spend the whole day in church or in the mosque.
Where do you stand on this particular question? Why don't you send me a WhatsApp 05511119997. Newsnight starts now, still ahead.
Tonight, NDC Youth Group lock up regional office of the party in protest of the detention of the vice chairman following his assault of the treasurer of the party.
We are here today to express our dissatisfaction to NDC regional executives and the national executive. We have seen series of misunderstandings in the party before, and we've never seen a situation whereby a chairman has been arrested or something.
We have details as they vow to resist any attempt by the party to sanction the Northern Regional Vice Chair, plus details of an ongoing functional executive meeting of the party here in Accra. Government targets 2028 to rid the country of malaria. We have details of that ambitious National Malaria Elimination Strategic Plan to set that quest for a malaria-free country in motion.
We are proud to unveil the National Malaria Elimination Strategic Plan, which is a comprehensive roadmap charting the course towards a malaria-free country, Ghana.
You want to stay for details of that? 5 years after the murder of investigative journalist Ahmed Hussein Swale, brother of the slain journalist, is accusing the police of frustrating the family as it continues to change investigators placed on the case.
Anytime they change a CI, the new person will want us to write a statement again, which I had a disagreement with. Maybe perhaps every 6 months, if you have to call me and tell me I should put down a statement again. Don't you think I may do some mistake?
In business, price of petroleum products expected to be increased in coming days as petrol could go up by 3% and diesel may be adjusted by under 1%.
And in sports, Burkina Faso begins Africa Cup of Nations campaign with a narrow win over Mauritania.
And we'll focus on the proud moment of the Ghana Police Service as personnel review their rejection of bribes from civilians during the festive patrols, as Director General in charge of administration urges continued abstinence.
These civilians, some of them like to be giving us money, but by God's grace, we always reject this kind of money.
And then he was trying to give some of our people money, but they refused. Yeah, he's the IGP. He want to do something before he go. He's the IGP.
You want to stay for details of that and more here on Newsnight. Like Evan says, you can join us with your thoughts and comments via WhatsApp 05511119997. I am Emefa Apawu.
And my name is Evans Mensah. Details after this.
What's so tasty, creamy, crunchy, makes you happy when it's near. Munchie, munchie, oh munchie, shortcake biscuits.
Enjoy the unbeatable taste of Munchie Milk Shortcake Biscuits, serving you original milky richness for 20 years. Munchie, a rich ankasa. This advert is FDA approved.
Ready? Let's go. We all go bring some savannah.
Everyone is dancing, everyone is singing, because everyone is painting with Savannah. Savannah paints from Azar are affordable enough for everybody to fulfill their paint needs. Paint more, pay less. Savannah paints, we all go paint some.
We all go paint some Savannah. We all go paint some.
Of late, things no easy, crowd. For my business inside, pressure day from customers. If I make payments, give suppliers, Okada riders, delivery charges, no easy. Things no they move fast like before because everything make expensive. The family where they house, see what I they talk. Family where they call, they ask for another money. No easy. Vodafone Cash be the only thing where they make my ID get to. If I they do transfers for Vodafone Cash, it they save me money. If you they do Vodafone Cash to Vodafone Cash transactions, still no transfer charges dey. Even if I they send money to another network, I they get value.
Make you dial *110# to send money. Sending money from Vodafone Cash to Vodafone Cash still be free. Vodafone.
You're live on News 90s on Joy 99.7 FM. There's more chaos within the main opposition National Democratic Congress in the northern region tonight as youth there have locked up the regional office of the party in protest against the detention of the vice chairman, Haji Bewa. The youth have also warned they will lock up all NDC offices in the metropolis. I'm talking about the Tamale metropolis in the northern region. The youth group, they are demanding the release of the party's vice chairman who was detained by the police after he turned himself in. You remember the case of the assault. The police had invited Mr. Gbewa for questioning after the party's regional treasurer Shamima Yakubu reported the case of assault against her. We've seen the pictures of a bloodied face. The communication officer of the Gbewa youth, Mahama Haruna, warned they will resist any attempt by the party to sanction the Northern Regional Vice Chairman, Haji Gbewa.
I'm the communication officer for the World Youth Association located in Chile Hilltop. We are here today to express our dissatisfaction to NGC regional executives and the national executive for the mere misunderstanding that occurred between our vice chairman and the treasurer. We have seen series of misunderstandings in the party before, and we've never seen a situation whereby a chairman has been arrested or something. So we don't know why this one. We don't know. And Shamima, for instance, this is not the first time she's been causing problems in the party. Even if you can remember, just last week, a week ago, she caused a problem again that resulted in a fight between Azoka and one of our party faithfuls called Tia. I think if we want to continue counting, this will not be the. I think we can count countless the number of times that she has brought problems within the party. And we are not reading here, we are northerners. And sometimes if you are a female and you find yourself within a party executive, sometimes no matter how you are, you don't want to prove yourself as if, because she's not the only one in the party, and she's not the only one who is a female executive. We have other female executives in the party, but why is it all the time? She's always the one. Shamima here, Shamima there. Anytime there's going to be any negative in the party, in the region, Shamima is involved. Ask yourself why. Is she the only female in the party, or is she the only woman in the party? No. Correct. So we are sending this signal to the national executive. We have seen our the national secretary release a statement indicating that they have seen what is happening in the North region, and we are also waiting to see what the outcome will be. Should they make any mistake by saying they are going to either sanction or suspend Alhaji Bewa, then we'll let them know that Tamale belongs to we the Tamale.
Let's bring in our Northern Regional correspondent, Martina Bugri, who joins us on the telephone line right now. Martina, I understand that the NDC office in Tamale remains closed tonight because of this.
Yes, I went to the place earlier. That was around 3 o'clock. The place was still locked up. And the youth are insisting that they would lock more officers in the metropolis if the party makes an attempt to sanction the vice chairman of the regional party. Now, their reason is that they believe the treasurer is the center of all the controversies and disagreements that have taken place in the region between party individuals who have had confusions or disagreements. And so they don't see why, instead of her to be cautioned, they are rather thinking of sanctioning the vice chair who they believe did the right thing.
Where Shamima is pushing us to, she's going to destroy the party within the region. And if Shamima is not talked to by the nationals, even the president, our former president, your mama himself, she talked to Shamima. Her behavior her actions is not going to it's not going to help our party within the region, even national. And from today onwards, we will let Shemima know that we were here before she came, and we'll still be here and next go again. Let me tell you something. We have the patience, and we are here. People can just come from any other place and become a regional executive of party. We don't have any problem with that. But as a woman, if you are living with men, especially within this our northern territory, you should know that your limit. It's because we love the party, that's why we are here. There's no assurance that when the party comes to power, we are going to get anything. We've been in the party for a number of times, and we've never gotten anything. Yet we are still in the party just because of the love we have for the party. So what you are doing, in fact, it is not going to be good for the party within the region. So we are giving them, by the close of the day, we want Alhaji Towa to release, or else whatever that comes, we don't care whether the party is going to win or not. What we know is that Alhaji Towa is our brother, and he has suffered for this party. And even if we want to win, what Shemima has contributed to the party and what Alhaji Towa has contributed to the party within the region, everyone here can testify that Alhaji Towa has done marvelously more than any other party.
Well, Martina, while this happens today with all the threat of violence and the locking up, the woman in question, we saw the pictures. She was beaten to pulp. How is she faring? Where is she?
We are told that she's doing well. The aide spoke to some media persons in the region. We are told that she's fine. She's been treated, and we are told that she's okay. No cause for alarm. But as to whether she's in the region or out of the region, they are not ready to disclose that.
I mean, this vice chairman in question, the man accused of assaulting Shamima, he turned himself in. I understand that there's been a court date set for him. He has actually appeared before the court. Where is he? Is he still behind police custody?
He was in court today, and the court granted him bail. I visited the police headquarters where he had come in to write his details, and then they go back to the court and have him released.
And there's also a threat to lock up other party officers.
That's what they are saying, and they say they are not taking a no for an answer unless their demands are met.
I'm just curious, the party in the region, though, what have they said about this?
What we are being told now is that the party chairman and the secretary are in Accra in connection with what's happening.
And we've been following up on that meeting, and my colleague Papani Ashale with me in the studio. Papani, yesterday the party issued a statement that they were going to meet at the very top level to try and deal with this matter.
Yes, Evans. So what Martina mentioned, that two of the regional executives from the northern region, the chairman himself together with the secretary, have all been invited to this functional executive meeting happening in Accra. We understand right now, if you have tried to reach any of the top-level executives, you definitely won't be getting them, or be getting a number busy response. They are all currently in that meeting deciding the fate of the vice chairman. Now, we don't have exactly what will happen to him, but I can paint a picture to you based on the statement that was released to us today, and I'll quote it. It says that the NDC takes a very serious view of the conduct of the party officer responsible for the assault, and at the next meeting, which is what's happening right now, of its functional executive committee meeting, measures will be taken to address the matter thoroughly, to leave no doubt in everyone's mind that the party does not approve of unlawful acts of assault and battery.
Thank you very much, Papani, as we watch what will happen once the party is done with this functional executive committee meeting on this subject. In the meantime, though, the party's office in the Tamale Metropolis remains closed because of the youth action today.
Well, another issue stirring controversy is the issue about the Ministry of Works and Housing and the Judicial Service and that bungalow belonging to the late Justice Samuel Mafusau. Well, Joy News has secured a copy of an agreement between the Ministry of Works and Housing, and in the last few minutes also there's a statement from the Judicial Service. We'll go through it shortly, but let me bring in Elton Brobe. He's been taking a look at that particular agreement between the Judicial Service and the Ministry of Works and Housing following that allegation by Asin Central MP Kennedy Ohinie Ejepong in that viral video that alleges that there was a collusion between a former Chief Justice and the Sector Minister Francis Asenso-Boakye to sell the official residence of the late Justice. Elton, we've been looking at that agreement. Take us through it.
So Emefa, if you look at the agreement, it essentially talks about the property belonging to the judicial service, at least allocated to the judicial service by the Ministry of Works and Housing. And the ministry, somewhere in February 2023, wrote to the judicial service announcing its intent to demolish the structure, rebuild it, or redevelop it into a 4-bungalow structure. This, according to agreements as we have it, was, approved by the Judicial Council, and that led to the birth of the memorandum of understanding between the Ministry of Works and Housing and the Judicial Service to allow for the redevelopment of the said property, 2 bungalows. And according to the agreement as we have secured it, it indicates that upon completion of the structure, they will be able to redevelop it into 4. According to this same agreement, the Judicial Service agreed to this proposal by the Ministry of Works and Housing because of the acute accommodation shortages it is currently faced with. So that's basically what the agreement is about.
Well, that's Elton walking us through that agreement. And in the last few minutes, like I said, the Judicial Service has been confirming that agreement, at least at the last line of that particular statement, talks about development on the said lands are therefore covered by an agreement concluded between the Judicial Service and the Ministry of Works and Housing. I'm sure we can go through details of that statement now, Evans.
Indeed, the Judicial Service is clarifying the situation. They received a letter from the ministry responsible for Works and Housing, expressing this desire to implement a government redevelopment scheme within a Onyisia Close. That's a Roman Ridge area. This is the same area that the plot of land that used to be occupied by the former Justice Mafosal, and the state had written to the Judicial Service indicating that there's a plan to redevelop this particular area. Now, the Judicial Service goes on to tell us that, in fact, it's not only one plot that was in question. There were 2 of them, and that 2 properties had been allocated by the Ministry of Works and Housing to the Judicial Service, and which previously had been occupied by both the late Justice Samuel Mafosal and his Lordship Justice Victor Ofoe. Both of them were used to occupy this area. It fell within the redevelopment enclave. Now, the Judicial Service clarifies that the plan under the government redevelopment scheme, as expressed by the Judicial Service, was to increase the housing stock in the enclave within a 2-year period from the date of handover of the properties to the ministry. Now, upon completion of the project, 4 housing units were to be allocated to the Judicial Service for use by the Superior Court judges. So, and as yesterday, the ministry in a statement clarifies, once the property is complete, it goes back to the Judicial Service. The Judicial Service now is confirming that it will be occupied by members of the Superior Court. Now, the Judicial Service accepted the offer, which was made to them, and recognized the serious accommodation deficit that they are already currently facing, whilst taking into consideration the security and safety requirements of judges. Also convinced that the project will be beneficial to the Judicial Service. So the Judicial Service fully endorses what is happening. And yesterday, we sent our team there, and they indeed confirmed that work had long gone on in terms of the redevelopment of this particular piece of property, and buildings have already been erected onto that particular piece of property, the land in question. Now, there have been a series of meetings between the representatives of government, the Judicial Service, and the Ministry of Works and Housing regarding the 2 properties mentioned in this particular brief that we have from the Judicial Service. And an agreement was then reached on the 17th February 2023. Was entered into between the Judicial Service and the Ministry of Works and Housing to proceed with the project. And so the ministry had the full blessing of the Judicial Service. The development on the said land are therefore covered by this agreement concluded between the Judicial Service and the Ministry of Works and Housing. So that's what we know tonight from the Judicial Service, which has now been put forth following our securing of this agreement that we've talked about. My colleague Elting has been looking into that. Now, yesterday when we went to this property in question, this is what we found. My colleague Blazek Soga has that story.
Brick and mortar, the key ingredients giving life to government's redevelopment program. These men at work have a simple task: to optimize government's prime lands, especially this building at Laboni in Accra. Although government says it aims to provide more accommodation for the ever-growing number of public servants, concerns are emerging about transparency and the possibility of a land grab. At the work site, I met Jeffrey Tete, spokesperson of the Coalition of Law Associations, the allodial owners of this prime land.
This is a very beautiful idea which has been in place for quite some time. I am told since 1992. Unfortunately, the problem we have with this particular redevelopment scheme that government is undertaking is that once they develop one or two of the units, the rest of the whole estate is sold out to private hands. And this is where the issues come up. We want government to come clear, and our call now as Alodia owners, since we gave out the land, the people of La give out the land to government for housing purposes for government officials. We want to get an audit. We want government to come up with an audit of all government, facilities, talking about housing facilities. We want an audit so that we will know how many government has redeveloped, how much has been given to private hands. And if they say it is not in private hands, then together with government, we can go around and check it. And I'm happy the media is doing this. We all go around, tell you the story, you get to know, you let the whole world know what is happening so that government will come clear.
Our next stop was the Roman Reach community. This property, according to government sources, used to house former senior members of the judiciary. Assembly member for the area, Adam Yusuf, tells Joy News although the initiative is laudable, it should not be handed over to private individuals after its development.
One tenant, and that tenant was a prison officer. And then now, as you can see, we have about 6 units property here, which can house about 3 directors from the same unit or from a different government unit, and which is laudable because the land size of this area over the years was like an acre, but you have a single house, a very small, tiny house in the building. But now, if it's redeveloped, you can take more people, yeah. Unlike other places, it takes about 8, but this one is a single unit.
Wow, and would help, definitely.
This thing will really help.
Except that you fear that it shouldn't go into private hands.
That is our fear, because as you can see at the other side, we have a lot of private developers also pursuing to grab those properties from the state. And to me, I don't advise that the state should lose it to the private developer, because they will in turn use it for business and make millions of dollars out of the business, whilst the state officials will be struggling.
This housing unit you see here at Laboni, one of the prime areas within the Greater Accra region, forms part of government's redevelopment policy. The Works and Housing Ministry explains that it forms part of a broader policy to optimize the use of prime state lands. Upon completion, this very facility with work underway will serve as the primary residence for senior state officials, ministers, superior court justices and other officials of government and the civil service. Blessed Sugan reporting for Joy News, Laboni, Accra.
And that's what we found when we were on the ground. And it's time for business. When we return, we'll talk about that National Malaria Elimination Strategic Plan that hopes to rid Ghana of malaria by the year 2028. You want to stay for that? George, when was the last time you got malaria?
I can't recollect, actually.
Okay. Good for
also
you.
a time when I do, then they'll say no malaria parasite seen. So, not sure about the last time I got, but it's interesting. There's talk about some vaccine, right? I think one of the African countries, there was a recent report that...
We started it as well. We also on a vaccination drive, but it's all part of this whole program. We'll be talking about
that'll
it
be
shortly.
a major, because you realize that most of the ailments that most Ghanaians are reporting when they go to the OPDs, it has to be malaria, typhoid, cholera. So that would be...
Mine is mostly typhoid. I hardly get malaria. But what's
strong
in business?
immune system.
I think so. What's in
coming up in business, price of petroleum products expected to be increased in coming days as petrol should go up by 3% and diesel may be adjusted by under 1%. In other stories, also a fresh set of tax measures to be implemented this year, and rising crude prices could impact on any significant reduction in policy rate later this month. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Syntex tanks and Pepsodent charcoal and herbal.
Central University, Ghana's leading private Christian university, has open admissions. Apply now for a degree in environmental engineering, fashion design, landscape design, interior design, business administration, economics, law, nursing, civil engineering, architecture, computer science, IT, theology, PharmD, and many others. Degrees are available on our campuses in Mutual, ICGC Christ Temple, Abosokai, and Kumasi. Also enroll in our MBA with various specializations. Scholarships are available for needy but brilliant students. Call us on 0303-318-583 or visit our website at central.edu.gh for more information. Central University, raising transformational leaders through faith, integrity, and excellence.
The Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLA, has introduced a new online vehicle registration process. That's right, you can now log on to online.gov.gh to start your new vehicle registration process at the comfort of your location. Then present your vehicle at any private vehicle test station with customs release documentation for verification and testing. Once that's done, you can visit any DVLA office for further vehicle inspection and biometric verification of the owner or authorized persons for your digital smart card. Yes, a smart card. No more paper documents, and it's that easy. Log on to online.gov.gh today and start your new vehicle registration process now. DVLA, your safety, our concern.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kindle Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302-764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website, www.kingdomgh.com.
The other day, I visited Kweku at his spunky new office to congratulate him on opening his business. And man, was I impressed. The business is just moving quick. The sales, customers, everything is just working seamlessly. The secret? He said,
it's MTN Business Broadband. In this fast-paced environment, we need fast and reliable internet to support all business types. No laggy online meetings, great download and upload speeds, impeccable business management systems, all inclusive. I mean, you can have it all.
Sharp! I signed on immediately.
To enable your business stay ahead and stay connected, make sure you're signed on to the best internet made just for businesses. MTN Business Broadband. Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh and manage your account on my MTN app. Call 0244-308-111 for more information. We are good together everywhere you go.
No matter your water needs, Syntex has it all. Syntex tank was first to introduce double layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex tank was first to introduce white inner layer tanks in Ghana, and now introduces the customer specs order, which will let you order any color and size you want. Syntex tanks gives you the biggest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you. So whatever your water consumption, size of project, or demand, choose Syntex tank. Syntex tank, stress-free. Syntex tank, reliable. Syntex tank, maximum guarantee. Call 0244 335 168. Kumasi 0505 555 666 or visit syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, a strong, a tough.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, price of some petroleum products are expected to be increased in the coming days by the various oil marketing companies. The National Petroleum Authority has indicated that this is based on industry data. What the players have submitted, petroleum price of fuel should go up by up to 3%, and diesel will be just under 1%. The authority, as however, says that this is still left with the individual oil marketing company on how it wants to go about with this adjustment. Abbas Asunti is the head of economic regulations at the National Petroleum Authority.
Even though we do not regulate prices, we publish this indicative price to give everyone that idea what we should expect on the market. So as a regulator, I think you mentioned earlier that the marketers are supposed to submit their indicative prices to us, which they do. So when they submit their indicative price, our work is to ensure that they've calculated their price in accordance with the prescribed petroleum formula. Even though we do not announce the price, if we think that any marketer has not followed the price appropriately, and if there should be a significant drop in price and they have not dropped their price, then we as a regulator can invite or investigate or get that marketer to do the needful. We do not tell you to move your price from 1 to 2, but we have an idea that prices are supposed to drop and therefore you have to do the needful, and that's what we do. So on a regular basis, we review this price and ensure that everyone is following. You would have observed that there have been so many instances where prices have dropped and the marketers themselves have done that. We are not supposed to follow them with a whip and ask them to drop price. Same way when prices have to go up, we don't do that. The market itself regulates itself.
Abbas Asunti is the head of economic regulations at the National Petroleum Authority. The Bank of Ghana could be forced to hold its policy rate at the current rate or possibly reduce it marginally when they meet in the coming days. Now, these are the concerns of some market watchers. There is more in this report.
The Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana is expected to start meeting from next Tuesday to review development in the economy and announce a new policy rate at the end of the 3-day meeting. There are strong expectations that with the significant drop in inflation rate from July last year to 23% in December, the Bank of Ghana may not have any excuse not to drop the policy rate by some significant margin. The rate currently stands at 30% after it has been kept unchanged since July last year. But there are fears that government's decision to roll out some 5 new taxes from this year and fears of crude oil prices rising again may reverse gains made when it comes to inflation rate slowdown. The development may result in the monetary policy rate being cut marginally instead of the significant drop that we are expecting. The policy rate currently influences the cost of credit in the country. It is the rate at which the Bank of Ghana lends to commercial banks in the country.
And that is a Business Desk report. Now, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has revealed that government is hoping to sign a memorandum of understanding with the bilateral creditors in 2 weeks on the terms agreed for restructuring Ghana's debts. Ghana last week reached a deal with the bilateral creditors on how to restructure the $5.4 billion. Now, however, it is yet to finalize the terms for each of those countries. The Finance Minister says they have made some significant progress on the agreement that will guide the restructuring.
I think we've created, an environment that really is conducive for discussions in a way that is ennobling. So I'm expecting that we will all negotiate in good faith, looking at the country coming back quicker than later. So it's a good time, it's historic, and we need to acknowledge that ours then, as a government, Ministry of Finance, is to work in good faith because the memorandum of understanding has to be signed. And that then will encapsulate, issues that we need to think a bit more deeply about to make sure that it is successful.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta speaking on PM Express Business Edition, which will be aired this Thursday on Joy News at 9 p.m. Now, Consolidated Bank Ghana has indicated that the injection of more than 2 billion Ghana cedis to recapitalize the institution as a move that would aid in its expansion. The bank recently finalized a deal with the Ghana Financial Stability Fund for some 2.5 billion Ghana cedis in bonds to help recapitalize the institution. Its managing director, Daniel Ado, has been speaking to Joy Business about this move and plans to be among the top-tier banks in the country from next year.
Capital is always a good thing for a bank, right? I mean, capital allows you to lend and lend for bigger transactions. It allows you to interact with offshore entities and to get better terms of trade between yourselves and your correspondent banks. Capital allows you to fund the infrastructure, the technology, and the processes and the platforms that you need to do. So for us, it's a game changer. It's almost like a shot of oxygen, and it will definitely propel the bank forward. We look to deploy that capital into quite a few areas. Like I said, first of all, to achieve market leadership in SME funding, to also fine-tune our technology platforms, but also we're also looking at agriculture, working together with GESAL and DPG. So there are lots of uses for the capital we've got.
The managing director of Consolidated Bank, Daniel Ado, he also says that all the bank indicators have witnessed some significant growth in all areas over the past 2 years. To the stock market, if you had invested in the market from the beginning of this year, investments have down by some 11%. But managers of the market are hoping that things will pick up strongly as some of the indicators at the macro level improve in the economy. And that's all for business on Newsnight.
And George, you know we are counting down to Friday. That's a big day for Ghana at the
IMF board meeting to look at our program and how we have fared when it comes to the first review.
It's a big day because at the end of the day, we should get firm word if it's been approved and if the 600 million is on its way. And we know that unlocks other additional funding from the World
Bank, about $550 million as well. So all other things being equal, by the end of this month, we should see about more than $1 billion hitting government's account. And even one interesting thing is that in the past, funds that were coming to Ghana under the fund program, they were meant directly for balance of payment support for the central bank. But in this case, it is supposed to go directly to government to help finance some projects in the budget. So, unlike the previous times where it was going to central bank's account specifically to support our imports and all the rest, this time around, it is going to support projects that government has identified in the budget. The $550 million also coming from the World Bank is supposed to go directly to government's account to help it finance some projects in the budget.
And this is so important for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
And tonight on PMS, we're going to be talking about this. Remember, this is an election year.
Yeah.
And we know what things happen in election years. And one of the things we're going to do tonight in our analysis before the conversation is to track what has happened in election years over the period.
Yeah.
But we also want to isolate election years when we have been under IMF programs. 2016 was the last one.
Yeah.
And you see the discipline.
Yeah.
You come to 2020, it changes.
Yeah.
2024, we're back on an IMF program. What is going to happen?
Yeah.
But then you have a situation where at the beginning of the year, you're going to have, if everything goes okay on Friday, you're going to have the unlocking of billions of dollars coming in the election.
And even
the finance minister have already told you that the projects will begin.
Yeah.
Right? And so we need to analyze that. We need to look at this carefully. So we're going to simply do a few things on PM Express. The election year economy, that's what we are calling it.
Yeah.
Right? The prospects and then the IMF question.
Yeah.
Because it will all have implications for December 7, but also whether government can maneuver with all the money that they have and what they focus on is also going to be key.
Yeah. But the finance minister, again, in that interview, is insisting or claims that they are going to be disciplined in election year because of the conditions that the fund program, and he's insisting that anything that is not identified in the budget or captured under this whole gift mix program, he is not going to sign any check.
And it's so important. And yet, you're going to have demands from labor. You're going to have demands that government will have to meet necessarily. How will government fend off those demands if it's not part of what the IMF has agreed with us to do? Do you remember the last finance minister who had to implement an IMF program in an election year?
Yeah, but
was the last one.
But the argument
and he's going to be my guest.
Interesting, but
because I want to pick his thoughts.
Some have also argued that it is about the economy and the economy. When you fix the economy, obviously it is going to impact on everybody. So don't go about doing things, dashing money and other when the economy is struggling.
One of the things I really want to find out from Setekpe, and I know Kenneth Reata will struggle to tell you this. The truth is, he's not there anymore, so he can tell us. You are an IMF program. You are an election year. There will be demands on you.
That's right.
To spend money in areas that will help the government, win votes. How do you satisfy both? Deal with the IMF, but also meet your own party demands for you to spend as a finance minister.
To assist the political economy.
Exactly. And I'll get Setekpe's thoughts on that. That's the first question I'm going to go to him with. He needs to be honest with me. How do you maneuver when you go to cabinet and they're asking you to spend money, and the IMF says no? How do you maneuver? How can Oforiatta maneuver an election year like this and also keep within the strict constraints of an IMF program? You want to join the conversation tonight? It's at 9 p.m. The election year economy prospects and an IMF question. We have Setekpe joining us for a conversation. Theophilus Echampon. He's an economist but also a political risk analyst. And then you have Godfrey Bokwing, who will also join us. You don't want to miss it. We're going to be doing a lot of analysis, plus also opening up a bit on what you can expect this year being an election year.
It gives us some leeway the next 3 years with regards to servicing of the loans that we have, and that gives us space that we want. What we have now is it gives enough financial assurance for the IMF to sit. We now are going to take our time to get into the nitty-gritties of the MOU. And so that's what is ahead of us. And we'll now work with them into the details of that.
Does the preliminary term sheet include the low cut on the principal and the interest, and then the fact that it's still a freeze after 4 years before we start paying something as well?
I think those broad parameters, are in there, and I really don't want to be drawn into the details because those are really going to change. But what it does give us is that it gives us momentum to now proceed a lot more aggressively with our Eurobond investors and commercial creditors.
That's a Ken Oforiatta there giving us a bit more ahead of tonight's conversation. But also remember that he is on PM Express Business Edition on Thursday exclusively with George. I want to bring in now Ms. Bao, who is joining us with sports. Hello, Ms. Bao.
Hello, Evans. Well, the African Cup of Nations is on, big one. Earlier today, Burkina Faso got their first win of the tournament, defeating Mauritania by 1-0. It was a 90-minute penalty by Bertrand Traoré, which ensured that Burkina Faso, got off to a good start. And one interesting thing about Burkina Faso is that they have reached the semi-finals at 3 of the past 5 AFCONs. So we're to see how well they will do this time round. While ongoing is the game between Tunisia and Namibia. Remember, the Black Stars play Namibia in a friendly prior to the tournament. And if you look at the time, is 89th minute, and Namibia have taken the lead against Tunisia.
Another shock in the making.
Another shock in the making. They scored just in the 87th minute, and they're hoping they can hold on and win the game. And of course,
Emefa Apawu, as we see the hoo-ha in the background
because Tunisia almost equalized over there. Well, but there's a few minutes more to go. It's a 1 minute to 90 plus. At a time, we'll see how they'll fare there, if they can hold on and come up with a shortcut over there.
You know that there's a trend that is continuing from the last World Cup. The teams that you traditionally would expect to be weaker nations are taking on the established houses. Nations and causing upsets.
Yeah, absolutely, they're doing that. Of course, I'm sure one of the big victims of that upset are the Black Stars. And talking about the Black Stars, former Black Stars player Sekou Fo has been speaking about the team's performance and urging the players to give their very best in the remaining fixtures in the AFCON and ensure, at the very least, make it to the quarterfinals.
And this is the time that I think the players, they will show their true colors. They have to show it. They got nothing to lose. They have to go in there with a free-minded. Go and perform. It's a football. It's a thing that you love to do it, and we are paying you. So you have to go there. And I think This time around, personally, if we go to quarterfinals, I'll be more than glad. I have to be honest. Because like I said it earlier on, the planning and preparation differences are the factors. That's why I use the word, if we go to quarterfinal, I'll be more than glad.
Yeah, so that's Osei Kufo over there. And of course, the update is that Mohamed Kudus is back in full training, and we're hoping that he will be able to be to feature in the starter lineup in our game against Egypt. Crucial game on Thursday at 8 p.m. And of course, events yesterday, AFCON tonight was premiered on Joy Prime between the hours of 10 to 11. We'll bring you a wrap of all the games that happen in the course of the day, in-depth analysis of it, 10 to 11 p.m. Monday to Friday on Joy Prime. You can join us today too.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bauer. And yesterday, Emefa Apawu, you were asking me where I've been. There was a time in the last 1 week that I thought I had malaria.
And your checks reveal?
It turns out I was negative. I didn't have malaria. But guess what? There is now an initiative that may actually remove the doubt.
Yeah, by 2028, we had a national malaria control program. Now that has been replaced by a national malaria elimination strategic plan, hoping to rid the country of malaria completely by the year 2028. Well, during the launch today, the health minister, Kweku Agyemang-Menu, started by touting the successes of the national malaria control program.
Malaria has remained a priority disease under the government's policies and initiatives, and has traveled several progressive milestones to ensure high coverage of evidence-based interventions to combat malaria through the National Malaria Control Program and now the National Malaria Elimination Program. The control program, for instance, aimed to achieve the following goals by 2020. 100% of communities will have access to community-based treatment for uncomplicated malaria. We have made significant progress in reducing the burden of malaria in the last decades. With smart investments, strong and enduring partnerships, a dedicated workforce, and effective leadership, we have reached millions with life-saving interventions. Malaria-related deaths at all ages reduced from 3,889 in the year 2008 to 155 by the end of 2022, which is about a 96% reduction.
Now we can listen to the goals and specific targets of the National Malaria Elimination Strategic Plan as outlined by the Program Manager, Dr. Kezia Mao.
The first goal is to reduce malaria mortality by 90% by 2028. And this goal is to take us to near zero by 2028. So I'm hopeful that by 2028, whoever will be looking at the strategic plan at that time will now be saying that nobody is dying from malaria. We also want to work to make sure that by 2028, the numbers that we are seeing in our health facilities are reduced by 50%. Our parasite prevalence rate is reduced by at least 50%. And want to ensure that at least 21 districts, and these districts are in the very low areas that I showed in the map, would have eliminated malaria.
Now, representing President Akufo-Addo, the Presidential Advisor on Health, Dr. Anthony Nsiasare, also mentioned that this plan won't just sit on the shelves, but there is the political will to ensure its full implementation.
Government is ever prepared to play the necessary leadership role for malaria elimination in Ghana. In launching this path to elimination, private sector involvement is very imperative in addition to government support. Private industry investment is critical in realizing the malaria elimination goal and to help build stronger health systems. Innovative mechanisms are required to mobilize resources domestically and internationally to augment existing resource streams, including donor contributions, thus closing the national funding gap.
That's Presidential Advisor on Health, Dr. Anthony Nsiasare. We're focusing more on this strategic plan subsequently. There's more also on myjoyonline.com. Now, family of slain investigative journalist Ahmed Hussein Swale is accusing the police of frustrating the family over investigations into the murder of the investigative journalist. Ahmed Swale was shot by unknown gunmen near his home in Medina 5 years ago and some few months after the premiering of the number 12 investigative piece produced by the Tiger IPI Group. Despite government assurances to bring bring the perpetrators of the crime to book. The police is yet to make any arrests. 5 years on, the family is accusing the police of frustrating them with the investigation process.
At any point in time, the case is being given to a new CID. They keep changing the handlers. So at any time they change a CID, the new person will want us to write a statement again, which I had a disagreement with that. Once you have the record, what everybody has said already is there. So me as a brother, if maybe perhaps every 6 months, if you have to call me and tell me there's a new department or new CID handling it, I should put down a statement again. Don't you think I may do some mistake? I may forget about something I said 5 years ago and tell you different things today when you already have the records. So that is the bit we had disagreement. And also, as our usual disagreement on their mode of investigation. Because all the time we are on it, and you keep inviting, if it's not me, the family members, the wives. We are the people who seem to always be invited by the police, though I don't know what they are doing apart from that, but they keep inviting the family.
Does that mean the issue is yet to be put before court?
Sure. As a family, we have always told the police whenever they need us, we are available to support. And the way they are handling it, we have also vomited our displeasure to them that we are not happy with certain things, the way they are going about it. Like I always say, the CID who started it was very, very good. All of a sudden, he was being changed without informing the family. At a point in time, his number was no longer going. When I go there, he was not in. Until he himself called outside the country that he has been posted somewhere. And since then, all the CIDs, they have been changing.
Being the most corrupt institution in the country. We're hearing from police officers today who are declaring that they were actually enticed with bribes, but guess what? They rejected them.
By God's grace.
No, because there's a consistent plan for them to do so. I mean, at least that's what they've been telling the public. And some social commentators say they seem now to be conscious effort to restore the image of the police service. Masababa has more from an assessment session of police operations during the festive period at the police headquarters.
I wanna be a police.
Scores of policemen have gathered at the emergency command center at the police headquarters. Some of the personnel, especially the junior ones who were on the ground, shared their experiences about how they rejected bribes given to them by civilians during the festive period. Listen to General Constable Su.
Our duty, they advise us on extortion. And then when you go there to truly, these civilian, some of them like to be giving us money, but by God's grace, we always reject this kind of money.
Another member of the police patrol team also shared his experience and corroborated the claim.
And most of the drivers too. Person get to us and he was saying that he went to Osu and then he was trying to give some of our people money, but they refused. They think that always police are taking bribe and other thing. Yeah, he's the IGP, he's the dumpy. He want to do something before he go. He's the IGP, yeah, the IGP.
Director General of the National Patrol Department of the Ghana Police Service, COP Paul Awini, commended the policemen and urged them to continue on the new path of zero tolerance for bribes.
No curfew, okay? And we are even happy to hear that some of you say that now, by the grace of God, when you are even giving, you refuse. So please, that grace God has given us, the grace is upon us. Let us continue to refuse it.
Director General in charge of administration at the Ghana Police Service, COP Christian Tete Yohonu, said it is a curse to take bribes, warning personnel to reject them.
And we want to tell the other policemen they should take the example from these people. And I'm telling you that the monies that they will give you on the street, it will never do anything for you. It is a curse. So don't receive it and shame those people who attempt to bribe you.
Inspector General of Police George Ikufu Dampare has in the past stated that the Ghana Police Service will never accept the tag of being the most corrupt institution in the country. At the event, he called on Ghanaians to keep supporting the police service.
We want to thank the good people of Ghana for accommodating our shortfalls and continue to constructively criticize us, for us to use our sense of guilt and shame to continue to be better. And we know that it is attainable.
So I get where the by the grace of God is coming
now
from.
You get it.
I get it. Yes, I do.
And they did it. Okay.
And they did it.
You had any encounter with the police over the period?
Oh, a lot of very good encounters with the police.
By the grace
indeed.
of God, they didn't take.
No, but they've been very professional.
Okay.
I
Oh, of
mean,
course,
at
that
least, yeah,
professionalism we have to
very
talk about it.
professional,
Yes. But okay. Well, that's how we wrap up tonight's edition of Newsnight. The geeks are back.
Hi, Emefa.
Oh, let me leave you.
Happy
to
New
introduce.
Year!
Yeah.
Happy New Year,
You
man.
couldn't wait.
I
Taking the
could not
bait.
wait. It's good to have you. What are we talking about?
We are in a new year, and a lot of people have set goals and made resolutions. We want to just teach them some online productivity tools that they can use to maximize the use of their time.
Okay, great. I can't wait to hear it all
Sure.
on Geek Squad.